Good morning. This is a participatory thing, so I have several Vanna White clones. Go ahead. I'm going to have you do something with me. We're going to create something together. So take a strip of paper. How many of you know that you're creative? How many of you don't believe that you're creative? Okay, the creatives will prove you wrong. We're all creative, and we're going to create something together that we get to have as an individual and a collective experience. Let me just wait until everybody has a slip of paper. These are very expensive, valuable supplies.
They are, though. See, well,
Now, you can tell that I value trees, so I'm cutting up scrap paper. Now, while we're waiting for everybody to get one, let me just show you something else that has nothing to do with anything we're going to talk about today, but this is me. So, this is note paper for narrow-minded people. This, on the other hand, is note paper for
Broad-minded people, yes. I like it.
Okay, now, does everybody have one?
Yes.
Have I solved one enough? Okay, good. So, I'm going to look and see, one side of this paper is the outer on-stage life, if you will, of each one of us. It's the image, the mask, the or the public self that we put out there for the whole world to see. So that's one side. The other side, this side, is actually our inner backstage life. This is where our ideas, our feelings, our vulnerabilities, our values, our soul, our higher self is on the other side. Now, the relationship between the outer on-stage life and the backstage inner life, or self, has 4 different phases to it. You know, we arrive, every single one of us arrives in this world with no separation or no sense of being different or separate from, and there's no sense of separation between our inner and outer. We're actually one, and we know it. We have not been taught yet to believe that we're not one. So our inner and outer match, they are one. Now, as we get a little bit older, some people call it maturity, I call it insanity. As we get a little bit older, what we do is we start to build a wall to protect our inner vulnerabilities from what we perceive as outer threats. But the problem with that is that no light can get in and no light can get out when we build that wall. So hold your paper at about eye level like this, and you can see that here we're starting to build our wall. And this is not Donald Trump's wall, by the way. This is our personal wall that each of us tends to build, albeit unconsciously often. So we start to build a wall. Some people's walls are thicker than others. Some are bigger than others. Some of them are really solid. Some have a few little chinks and cracks in them. But we build that wall nonetheless. Now, as we go along, and I think often this happens right around midlife or so, we start to realize that we're suffering the pain of that sense of separation or alienation, and that starts to chip away at the wall. It starts to put some little cracks and breaks and some openings in that wall, because that inner self really, really does want to have a relationship with the outer self, and the outer self wants to have one with the inner self. It really wants to be one. There's a vague memory of what that was like, and so we start to try to figure out how do we connect the inner and the outer. So take your paper and put the 2 ends together like this. And now we've created a circle, and there is some connection there. You can see that there's a connection, right? Now, that's progress, but guess what? It's still a wall. So we can either be trapped on the inside, or we could be trapped outside. It's still a wall between the inner and the outer, the onstage or the backstage self or life, right? Now, pull those apart now, and I want you to put a little twist in it. And then you're going to put it back together, and you're going to see it's got kind of a funky, looks like a loop-de-loop, almost looks like a what do you call those things, roller coaster. So you're not putting it just back together, you're going to do a twist in it, and then put the ends back together, and you get something that looks kind of like this, okay? This is called the Mobius strip. And here's what I want you to notice about taking a ride on the Mobius strip. If you start on the outside and you trace it with your finger, you're outside, but then that brings you inside. You start on the inside, that inside ultimately brings you outside. So you're inside, outside, outside, inside, inside, outside, outside, inside. It's all one. So that creates then that flow of the inner to the outer to the inner. It's a continuous flow. It's like the continuous circulation of spirit in our lives, inner and outer. And we have now begun to recognize yet again the one co-creative reality that is the highest truth. It's all one. Inner and outer is one. And what we experience in our human condition as a result of that is congruence. We feel congruent now. We feel a sense of integration. Things are all integrated, fitting into the place that they need to for us to be complete. There's an integrity. Integrity simply means that our insides and our outsides match up. And what that all results in is our reintroduction to our inherent wholeness. We are complete, perfect, and whole, inside and out, inside and out. Life on the Mobius strip. Not the Sunset Strip, the Mobius strip, okay? Not Donald Trump's wall. Ouch. Integrity or integration comes from being who we truly are, allowing ourselves to experience being who we truly are, and allowing others to also experience who we truly are. The inside and the outside are a perfect match. And we return to that inherent wholeness that is our birthright, that wholeness that we knew when we were little tiny ones. We need to bring the kids in here, they'll tell us. They still know. We have not trained it out of them yet, but it doesn't take long. I mean, they're getting to the age it's already starting. And here's the deal, it's very difficult to embrace the challenge of reclaiming our wholeness all alone. It's a very difficult task to stick on. You know how when you're doing a new exercise program or a diet, it's really hard to stick to it all by yourself. It really helps if you have the support of others on a similar path. So we need those nurturing relationships to support us in our commitment. So strong community supports us in becoming more whole individually as well as collectively. So we can create a circle of trust where we know that I can fall back and somebody will catch me. I'll fall down 7 times and I'll get up several of them on my own, but I'll have help to get me up on that 8th time. I know that I can not look good all the time, and you know what? People still see the goodness in me. That's what that strong, supportive circle of trust kind of community creates, and that's what's possible for us here. Because community is not just a collective of like-minded people. That's what we kind of think. These people couldn't think like me. Yeah, and you know what? Guess what? Some of us think differently from you, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. But community, committed community, spiritual community, supports our individual quest for integrity and wholeness, as well as for the community to come together. That community can help us individually to hear and to discern the messages of our inner voice. You know how sometimes it feels good just to bounce something off of somebody else to make sure you're not completely off your, track, right? Derailed? Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you like to bounce something off of somebody. I know I've done some crazy things when I've been all by myself thinking up stuff and I'm like, get all excited and then I take action on it and people are like, what were you thinking? I'll have to tell you a story has to do with Cat Stevens, and I'll leave it at that. It's a really good story, but I'll tell you what, it was one of those deals where I was all by myself figuring out something fabulous, which turned out not to be so fabulous. So ask me after school for that story. In community, in strong supportive community, we can collaborate to create a community of encouragement that encourages each of us to be that complete, perfect, and whole being that we are, where we can reclaim that hidden wholeness and rejoin our own soul in the midst of others witnessing us doing it. And our soul is the core of our shared humanity, but it's also our individual uniqueness. So it's important that we develop that soul, that we be in touch with it, that we be at one with it. Parker Palmer, how many know Parker Palmer? Yeah. He is like my best friend. He doesn't know it, but he is like my BFF for sure. I absolutely adore Parker Palmer. And here's what he says about this. He talks about this idea of individual and community. He says, but when community unravels, we lose touch with one another, and the self atrophies, and we lose touch with ourselves as well. We know ourselves better as we know each other. We know each other, and it helps us to know ourselves. If we journey toward inner truth alone without any kind of support, often what happens is we grow weary in the process. We feel overwhelmed, and oftentimes we give up. And so we really need that support to encourage us to keep going. Sometimes the path to our wholeness is hidden, and so dialogue with other people or interaction with other people helps us to uncover it and to reveal it to ourselves, let alone to one another. The destination to wholeness, to that sense of really knowing our own wholeness, can be quite a daunting task. So we need the company of others to venture into the mystery of who we are. I've often said, I sometimes think that I have a brilliant mind, but I dare not venture in there alone. It can be a pretty interesting place, shall we say. But in community, our strengths and our passions create community and connection for each of us and for all of us. It's a place to be seen and to be truly known and to be valued and to be cared for. And as we do that for one another, it benefits each of us individually and all of us collectively. And there's an opportunity for us to serve others and to be lovingly supported by others as we travel this path of what it is to be human and divine simultaneously. We travel together on a similar path, and we can encourage each other to step into life more fully and to become a greater expression of our own wholeness. Now, transformation, which, by the way, I don't think we transform into something we're not. I think we transform out of something we're not into who we truly are. So transformation for the self, and to arrive at that highest, most authentic self, begins in the consciousness of the individual, and then it moves outward through our actions and our service out into community and beyond. Hey, to infinity and beyond, right? Yeah, okay. We'll hear a little bit more about infinity and beyond shortly. Yeah, but what was the name? Buzz Lightyear, Buzz. He knew where it was at. Now, if we do that kind of individual transformation, what happens is we start to create transformative community, which then begins with each of our individual commitments to creating ever-increasing circles of inclusion and trust, like when we throw a pebble in a pond and those goes out and takes in more and more and more. So in co-creation with one another in community, and it might be this community, it might be beyond this community, other communities of which you are part, and co-creation with spirit, then we begin to reveal and to weave the perfect pattern of connection that is spiritual community, that supports us even when we're not here, even when we're off by even when we're somewhere. We still have the whole community surrounding us. Spiritual communities like this, finely woven, beautiful tapestry or fabric of intentions and interactions and outcomes and miraculous becomings. And the combined energies and the talents and the passions and the ideas of many and diverse people in community creates outcomes that we could never do on our own. So that's part of the value of community. Otherwise, we could all just be home in our pajamas right now. Which, that sounds kind of nice, but, it gets old after a while. At least the pajamas start to stink after a while, right? So you may as well get dressed and come on and be part of connecting with other people who are also having interesting lives that we can share together and learn from one another. And the most powerful thing is that together we create so much more possibility and opportunity for us collectively and individually. One of my teachers said to me, all one is only one L away, or alone is only one L away from all one. Alone, or do you want to be all one? Which is it? And maybe it's not an either or. Maybe it's a both and. We can be alone and all one at the same time. And there's an appropriate time and place for each of those. So in community, we can create a sense of belonging where people care for one another and are cared for. And we're encouraged to embrace, to embody, and to express our wholeness. Again, Parker Palmer. I'm on a Parker Palmer thing this week, so just be aware of that. Parker Palmer says, in community we can grow our selfhood from the potential within the seed of the soul, a ground that is fertile by the quality of our relationships toward the light of our own wholeness. We plant that seed in the fertile soil of the quality of our relationships, and then we reach out toward the light of our own wholeness. A strong community helps people develop a sense of true self, for only in community can the self exercise and fulfill its true nature. Giving and taking, listening and speaking, being and doing. Both and, not either or. Community is a place where we can witness each other's self-discovery. And let me tell you, that is a powerful thing to witness. To witness someone waking up to who they truly are. There's a brightness in the eyes that is just incomparable in anything else I've ever seen. You see it and you know it when it happens, that spark. It's that flame in the soul just bursting forth and coming straight to the eyes. So community, a place where we can witness and support each other in our self-discovery. We can encourage one another, and in safety, we can also challenge one another. Because I got a newsflash for you. We're not all going to agree and get along perfectly all the time. Have you noticed that? Or am I the only one?
No.
You notice every now and then there's a little bit of friction? It's okay. We learn from that, or we can. If we're in the safety of this kind of community, we can come together with safe people surrounding us, and we can share our history, and we can share our joys and our triumphs. We can share our pain and our tragedies. We can be in a place where people bring out the highest and best and the most authentic in us, and we do the same for them. And these kinds of relationships are absolutely necessary for us to thrive as individuals, let alone as community. You know, where we are asked to be, or we ask ourselves to be, or we commit to be fully present to ourselves and in the company of others, and to those others. To be aware and connected with each other, and know that we're connected even when we're home alone. To know that I'm not really home alone after all, that there are those that I'm connected with even in their physical absence. Will you experience that as a family or community? It's a very powerful thing, especially when we're having some of our human challenges. Community can be a space where we're supported in our journey of the soul. And you know what? I gotta tell you, in this fast-paced, crazy, wild world, that is rare and precious. We have the opportunity to be that, to create that, to deepen that, to expand that here, to include not only us, but those who have yet to find us. That we can create that kind of space for people, because it is precious and it is rare. And we have that opportunity, and I believe we've been called to that. Soul work, that awakening awareness work, is best done in the company of others, best done in community that supports us. Conversations between us and truth-telling among us awakens and transforms us. It transforms our relationship with others, and it transforms ultimately the world, helping us to create a world that works for everyone. Okay, I promised you more Parker Palmer.
Yay.
He wrote this, I love this. It's kind of long, so, well, I think this one's on the screen. I think I'm finally caught up with you. Parker Palmer wrote this: solitude and community, rightly understood, go together as both and, being present to one another as a community of solitudes. To understand true self, which knows who we are in our inwardness and whose we are in the larger world, we need both the interior intimacy that comes with solitude and the otherness that comes with community. We have much to learn from within, but it is easy to get lost in the labyrinth of the inner life. We have much to learn from others, but it is easy to get lost in the confusion of the crowd. We need solitude and community simultaneously as a check and balance. Together they make us whole, like breathing in and breathing out. Do that. Breathe in. Breathe out. Life on the Mobius strip. In and out. In and out. You know, I always try to be really centered and prepared when I come here on Sundays. At least on Sundays. Yeah, I figure I can pull it together one time a week. And I try to really, pull that together. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't have the same gamut of emotions that other human beings have, because after all, guess what? I'm human. But when I have something going on, something emotional that's touching me in either hurtful ways or just, moving miraculous ways, I have a long drive up here from Sarasota, so I usually do all of my emoting and crying in the car on the way up here so that I don't have to cry in front of you. I've never been a big public crier, but sometimes emotion even gets the best of me. But the kind of community I'm talking about is the kind of community where each of us, including me, doesn't have to have it all together all the time. That we can hurt, and we can cheer, we can be in triumph, or we can be in tragedy, we can not be at our best, we can not look good, we can not do good, we can not be the picture of wholeness and perfection and completion, and yet we can still be seen that way in this kind of community. And so, we've been working on, with the help of Adana and Jody and Susan, to create a caring community. The unbroken circle of caring connections, so that we can support each other through all of the times of our lives. We can cheer each other on, and we can support each other when times are tough, when it's hard. And I've said that it's important that we do that for one another, and it's important that we support one another. It's important that we minister to one another. The minister doesn't do all the ministering, and sometimes the minister needs some ministering, and this is one of those times. This is one of those times. I'm beginning to feel safe to be vulnerable in this community. I'm beginning to claim this as my own place to be safe and to be vulnerable. And I have to tell you, I would much rather be cocooning in bed right now or watching mindless TV, because I have had a very tough week. And yet I know that the best place for me to be right now is right here with you. Because the minister needs ministering to. The minister needs a hug, needs some love, needs some support. As many of you know, my little keeper's kitty has been having some health challenges. And so I discovered through lots of vet visits and things that she has a chronic illness that is beyond my capacity to support her through. And so I had to give her up this week. And thankfully, I was able to take her to a place where she will live the rest of her, kind of like a group home in a way. So, she gets to live, and she gets to live in a beautiful place, actually, with people who can take care of her, all the time. But it breaks my heart to give her up, and I had to give her up on the day that was the year anniversary of having to say goodbye to my caper kitty, to leave the planet. So my heart is broken, it's raw, it's open, and trust me, I contemplated finding somebody else to sub for me today, but then I realized, no, community is where I need to be. So I'm just telling you that because I want everybody, my vision is that we create community here, that every single one of us can feel safe and comfortable to be vulnerable and say, you know what, I'm hurting today. I hurt today. Will you hold my hand? Will you give me a hug? Will you tell me it's going to be all right? So I want to model stepping out and saying, I'm willing for my insides and my outsides to be on that Mobius strip. And I hope that others will feel the same, will feel that safety too, because it's what's possible here. And so in community, we can create those circles of trust. This can be a giant circle of trust, and there are small circles of trust within it. We do that with spiritual living groups and classes and people that just hang out together. You know, it's important to connect, not just to listen to me, you know, because this is what we do on a Sunday morning, although we're going to try some new things here shortly. It's important that we connect with each other, that we have lots of folks to fall back on and know that we'll be caught, and that we'll not just be propped up, but we will be held up, raised up to the point of our fullest expression. You know, Suncoast, here at Suncoast, we are building that kind of community. That is my intention, and it's come through some of the visioning that we've done, that we're building that kind of community of people who remember that they've been helped and healed by the community and by the teaching that we offer, and that they're willing to offer that same opportunity to others to awaken and to transform and to redeem their wholeness. You know, it's a community where we have patience, but we're not pushy, where we practice unconditional love for who we are, not judgment for who we're not. And it's a community of compassion, not confrontation. One where we encourage the unfoldment of each of us and all of us without specific expectations other than to be complete and full and whole. They're a place where we feel the safety to risk stepping out of our comfort zone, where we're willing to try that and not move to a place of fear where we build walls again, or that we walk out the door and put our wall back up, but that we can be whole even when we're not here. You know, that we can be fully present to witness the transitions of one another's lives, to witness. Do you know how powerful it is just to be seen for who you are and where you are in this moment? Not to fix somebody or to help them flee, not to invade somebody's space or evade them, but to simply bear witness. Sometimes no words. Sometimes no words are even needed. You just bear witness. You just sit with, be with. Richard Bach, you remember him from Jonathan Livingston Seagull fame, but he also wrote what I thought was an even better book called Illusions. He said the bond that links our true family is not one of blood, but of respect and joy in each other's lives. Rarely do members of the same family grow up under the same roof. We create family here, the family of our choice. Not all of us grew up in families that we could describe the way I've been describing community. Some of us didn't have that privilege or that wasn't. But it's important that we witness one another, be with, not so much do, but be. And if we be with, fully present, anything we do will be powerful and move us into possibility. So sometimes when we just simply witness someone and allow that person to unfold their own true nature in their own perfect divine right time, it's the best thing we can do, because sometimes when we're not willing to simply witness, but we want to make it happen for somebody else, we actually do harm, even though we have the desire to help. You know, sometimes our helping is a way of disabling. There's a story from Zorba the Greek that illustrates that idea, I think, very, very clearly. One morning, I discovered a cocoon in the bark of a tree, just as the butterfly was making a hole in the case, preparing to come out. I waited a while, but it was too long in appearing, and I was impatient. I bent over it and breathed on it to warm it up. I warmed it as quickly as I could, and a miracle began to happen before my very eyes, faster than life. The case opened, and the butterfly slowly started to crawl out, and I shall never forget my horror when I saw how its wings were folded back and crumpled. The wretched butterfly tried with all its body, its whole self, to unfold those wings. Bending over, I tried to help with my breath, all in vain. It needed to be hatched out patiently, and the unfolding of the wings should be a gradual process in the sun. But now it is too late for that butterfly. My breath had forced the butterfly to appear before its time, all crumpled and withered. It struggled desperately, and a few seconds later, it died in the palm of my hand. That little body is, I do believe, the greatest weight I have on my conscience. We should not hurry, we should not be impatient, but we should confidently obey the eternal rhythms. So I invite each of you and all of us to continue our journey on the Mobius strip of your individual and our collective lives. Community that is a circle of trust, a circle of caring, honors each one's soul, and it helps each of us to transcend that fixed fight or flight syndrome. It moves us beyond that, and it opens up the possibilities of journeying together on a path of integrity, a path of integration of our backstage and our onstage self, where we know ourselves to be whole, complete, and perfect spiritual beings, even in this human experience. So life on the Mobius strip is the inner and outer integrity and co-creation of the life that we love to live individually and collectively. The inner, the outer, the inner, the outer, into infinity and beyond. So blessings on your journey of both and, individual and community. And I beg you, be vulnerable, share and integrate your inner and outer being. And so it is.
So it is.